At this time, I call the Neighborhood Jobs and Housing Committee to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Lupien.
Here.
Vice President Harris. President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we begin, I will again reread our oath. We do solemnly swear or affirm that we will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that we will faithfully discharge the duties of this office according to the best of our abilities. I'm going to be reading that at the beginning of every committee meeting because in the age that we live in, it seems as though we have elected officials who do not understand their oath and their duty, but this body does. With that said, we have a presentation, and I ask the good folks from the Hinge neighbors to come forth and give us their presentation on their proposal to purchase 125 Charlotte Street. Let's make sure that mic's on.
I don't think so.
Is it on now? Check.
Yeah. Check. Pull it a little closer.
A little closer. All right, good. Oh, I want to say thank you again, Council, for having me this afternoon. Suzanne, unfortunately, was not able to join me this afternoon. You still can't hear me? How about now?
Yay,
right.
There you go.
Let me amplify my voice. I want to say this again. Thank you for having me here today, Council. I appreciate you taking the time to hear a short presentation about Hinge Homes at a possible development at 125 Charlotte Street. I don't know how to change the slides here. How do I do it? Can I do it from here?
Yeah, I believe the arrows.
Look at that.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, President. What we have here, we have some of our partners we've come together with. This has been about an 8-year process of us working with communities on both sides of the Interloop. And every time we had a meeting and got together, they felt that affordable home ownership was key to the fill-in of Interloop North. We had some ideas about that, but we weren't able to bring them to fruition. But we did receive a call from CGS Architects, Craig Jensen, and he said there was a call for a development of 125 Charlotte Street. And it was only for not-for-profits to apply for. There was also a grant, block-by-block grant, that only not-for-profits could apply for, which would help in the development of this project. And so we submitted our proposal to the city, and we waited some whiles, and this is what we presented. Were 11 units on this parcel, 9 of which have an auxiliary dwelling unit, which is at level, which creates accessibility. 2 of the other units have 3 bedrooms and a garage. So with the subsidy that we just submitted our application for, which is a block-by-block program, our build would cost us about $600,000 for each unit. The block-by-block program will provide $400,000 for the 9 units with the ADUs and $300,000 for the 3 bedrooms with the garage. And we've also added in there some parking lots as well for individuals to have there. And you can see the first floor. It's almost like a New York City brownstone kind of feel. You walk up first floor, second floor, and the other 9 units have a ground level ADU, auxiliary dwelling unit, and the other has a garage unit there. Some of the elevations from Union, Charlotte, or Charlotte, however you want to say it, Pitkin. And this is a view which you'd be standing on in front of Ugly Duck as you look across the lot. And some of these ways we've looked at things is how do we beautify and connect the neighborhood, maybe with a raised crosswalk so that traffic slows down. We can create more connectivity with neighbors, maybe working with the little theater, and we can have, movies that play on the street, and let's really create this neighborhood sense and feel. And this is also a little breakdown of more of our team here. Of course, we're working with Craig Jensen, CGS Architecture, who did the Venture Place. And we're also working with Patrick Tobin, who's done a lot of development in town. One of his more recent ones would have been the Sagamore on East Avenue. You can see we're sitting at about, we've gotten that price a bit down. We've gotten it, running the numbers recently, we got it down to about $6.5 million. And what we're looking at is a sales point between 175 and 200. And we've been connecting and communicating with banks and credit unions to help us bring down the gap. With the block-by-block funding, the homeowner, this is all about 60% AMI, average median income. They have to fall within the 60% AMI of the county to apply for this housing. With that, they are to stay there. Let me back this up. They are giving a 30-year mortgage on this home at a purchase price of $175,000. They are to remain there for 5 years. This is so that it prevents flipping and various other things like that. But if they try to sell that home, they have to still sell it within the within the 60% median income. After 15 years of being a full-time resident in that home, the additional 15 years on that mortgage can be expunged, and if one wants to sell that home, the house goes up to the current market rate of the time. Current market rate in the area is about $500,000. So we're looking at how do we create generational wealth, how do we break the cycles of poverty, how do we create neighborhoods, and how do we work together to build a brighter Rochester. And I'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so folks, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start with the district council member, and then we're going to start at this end, and we'll just go down the line. So, Councilmember Lupien, do you have any questions?
Just a clarifying question, Mike.
Sure.
Chairman, are we asking questions of the administration as well, or you want us to only ask questions?
You can ask questions of whoever, whatever, however. So, Councilmember Lupien, do you have any questions?
This one is for the administration. Can you provide the income levels for families at 60% of AMI? Like what annual income are we actually talking about?
Absolutely, we can provide that in writing.
Okay. And I hear that you want to get the price down. Because from what I'm looking at, and we'll confirm the numbers, that 60% of AMI for a two-person household is $67,000. And I'm wondering, you know, if we go by the rent burden or, you know, housing burden where your housing costs should not be above, is it 30%? Including your utilities. Will this project, as it stands, have someone who makes 60% of AMI end up with a housing cost burden that is above that level? Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, and that's why we're still playing with the numbers to figure out how we can actually get the price to a good amount. We're looking at some modular builds that could happen, which could change the price amount as well. We're also looking at other foundations and subsidies that would actually help with this project as well, so that it does become a very focused, for sale, affordable.
Yeah, and I wonder if you can provide some of those different opportunities that you're looking at and how they might impact the purchase price, because I think for me that is one of the biggest points that I'm looking at is what income level family will be able to afford these homes and not be housing cost burdened.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll see you some of that. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm not sure if I would get this information from zoning or not, but are there any additional park-like spaces within that area?
I'd be happy to answer that question, Councilmember. There are quite a few park and green spaces within a short distance of the location at 125 Charlotte Street. I believe we've counted that there are 6 parks or green spaces within a half mile of this location.
Also, is there any way that I can get a map of that area?
Absolutely, we'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Could you additionally, and this is to the administration, could you additionally provide a list of parcels that may be available for development within a 1.5 mile radius from 125 Charlotte Street?
We'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Council President.
Yes, thank you. So first, I want to thank you for putting forward this effort. I know what's before us is a sale of real estate at this point. The AMI question, I want to jump back to that for a moment. So essentially what you're looking at doing is utilizing the ADUs as part of the formula. Is that accurate in terms of if someone is trying to buy one of these units or one of these houses that has an ADU, they'll be able to use the ADU to pay for their mortgage in some way? Okay. And then in terms of, and this is probably more for the administration, I have a couple questions about the site specifically. So I know that at one point this was all part of the Interloop East, and when we did that at the time, this was a gravel, stone dust, fenced-in site. I went back and looked at the history, going through Google Earth and looking at the timelines of when this changed. And at one point, we decided to green it. But my understanding from having conversations that it was green for the purposes of temporary
Moved and seconded. Now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 95, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Introductory number 96, zoning map amendment, 759, 771, 775 Park Avenue, and 157 and 161 Brunswick Street. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second. Councilmember Martin.
Yeah, so what is the timeline for building the hotel if approved?
I believe after they secure the zoning map amendment, they'll proceed with getting the financing together with the intention of going to construction next spring. However, we'll confirm with the development team and bring that back in writing.
And how about the timeline for completion of the site plan review? I saw some speakers were interested in some additional traffic safety measures.
Yeah, it's a really good question, council member. So the site plan review process will play out administratively. The timeline is dependent on many factors, some of which is how fast the developer can provide the city information, and then in return, how fast the city can provide back information. There is an initial 30-day review period whereby the developer will submit their application, we will review it, we will distribute it out to all the different reviewing agencies, both city and county, and then we will return that with comments. I think it's safe to say the site plan review process combined with what will be a preservation board approval, as it notes, and any other potential land use board approvals, somewhere, I'm hesitating on putting a timeline on this, but I think it's reasonable to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 months, wholly dependent on the things that I talked about initially. But they will be assigned a project reviewer in the office to get the project and keep it moving forward.
Amazing, thank you. And once that's done, can you please share a copy with council? Thank you. And I appreciated that there seems to be a lot of community support for this project, so thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 96, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes.
Chair Patterson, I do have a question about 95 that I didn't get a chance to ask. Is it too late for us to go back?
Can we? I'll tell you what. Let's go all the way through, and we'll come back to 95 for.
Sounds good.
Introductory number 97. Give me 1 second. Introductory number 97, local law authorizing an amendment to the district plans for the High Falls Business Improvement District. Public hearing to be held on Thursday, April 16th, 2029 at 6 p.m. Questions, comments, concerns?
I do have one question for the administration.
So Martin, and then we'll come right back to you, Councilmember Leslie Smith.
So where will the proposed cameras be installed?
That hasn't been identified yet. The first step is to amend the district plan to get approval to offer this as a service of the district. One thing we do know, though, is that any of the signage, cameras, or lighting that the district pursues will be on private property.
Thank you. And there's always a concern about hiring private security in business improvement districts. So we're certain that what they're proposing, just the camera signage, is the entire scope of what they mean by public safety.
That's correct. Yeah, being very explicit that this is limited specifically to signage, cameras, lighting, and nothing else.
Thank you.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
How many active bids do we have?
This is the only one.
Any other questions, comments, concerns on introductory number 97? Councilmember Smith.
Is there a reason why this is the only active bid that we have? Is there an RFP process? Or?
There's a pretty extensive process required through the state comptroller's office to establish a business improvement district. Be happy to provide more information in writing on how that all comes together.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded on introductory number 97, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 97, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Introductory number.
Oh, sorry, I'm a nay.
Nay?
Yep.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Patterson.
Yes.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien.
No.
Vice President Harris.
Yes.
President Melendez.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Introductory number 98. Local improvement ordinance authorizing the 2026 through 27 budget, establishing the 2026 through 27 assessment, and authorizing an agreement for the High Falls Business Improvement District. Public hearing to be held on Thursday, April 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now roll call vote.
Councilmember Patterson.
Yes.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien.
No.
Vice President Harris.
Yes.
President Melendez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Introductory motion passes. Introductory number 99, local improvement ordinance establishing the cost of special services for the East Avenue Alexander Street Entertainment District for 2026-2027. Public hearing to be held on Thursday, April 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Leslie Smith.
I am curious, how does the assessment formula vary for the street entertainment local improvement districts versus a bid?
We can get back to you in writing on that.
And just one more question. Given the Respect Rochester campaign that we have, how can we take the components of this entertainment district improvement and grow that campaign? If we're already putting resources into that, how do we maximize our impact?
I think it's a great idea to incorporate this area into the overall Respect Rochester campaign, and I think we'd be willing to look some more into that and offer a response in writing.
Councilmember Lupien.
Is this exclusively trash pickup? And street cleaning?
For the East Ave and Alexander Street.
Yeah, I'm wondering if in any way this special enhancement district is funding the security that is there. No,
It is not.
okay. Even though this isn't, could we get the amount spent on security for East Ave last year?
Yep, we'll provide that in writing.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Martin.
Looking at attachment A, I see the name Thomas crossed out a few times. Can you explain why? In the section where it says property address / owner name, for a lot of those there isn't a name.
I believe those have changed ownership, but we will confirm and get back to you in writing.
Thank you. And once you confirm, can you send us an update of the names of who the new owners are?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it. Move. Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 99, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Introductory number 100, local improvement ordinance authorizing special work and services related to the South Avenue Alexander Street Open Space District for 2026-2027. Public hearing to be held on Thursday, April 16, 2026 at 6 p.m. Questions, comments, or concerns? Council Vice President.
Just curious, it seems like $8,900 is a pretty low number. Is this going to cover all the costs of the improvements in this area?
Yes, yeah, it will cover all the costs that are necessary for this area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion in a second.
Move it. Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 100, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Introductory number 101, authorizing the sale of real estate and appropriation from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, a loan agreement and payment in lieu of taxes for the First Genesis Senior Living Housing Project. Question, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. It's just a comment, and it's actually a comment in regards to. Well, first, it's a comment that it's a great project, as we've had a chance to talk about and vote on several times. But it's also a comment in relation to the 125 Charlotte Street project, where one of the questions we've regularly heard is, are there other lots to do this in? And the answer is, there's plenty of lots. And the city always tries the best that we can to make sure those lots are going to folks who want to develop them. Here's an example of the city selling 10 city-owned lots. In this case, also having to provide a loan and other things to provide the tools for the developer to build the housing. So I just wanted to point that out, that we're seeing two things. Of course, in one instance, we're seeing a lot of pushback from neighbors. And in another one, over here at the First Genesis project, we aren't, but they're both great projects that the city is trying to facilitate more home ownership.
Councilmember Vice President.
I just want to echo my colleagues' remarks, and also add that, I love that this is a project that's for 55 plus, and it also includes like a variety of options for folks for affordable housing. So this is a great project, and I support it.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? All right, so here's my comment. We've got a couple of them. One, amen, and congratulations, First Genesis, because we're going to talk about faith-based development. There's a lot more to that work of faith than just simply preaching to folks. It's teaching, and in this case, it's housing folks. It is making that long-term commitment to a community, making it possible for people to age in place. And I just want to commend First Genesis and the rest of our Black faith-based development group, because we actually have a Black faith-based development group that is building affordable housing across Rochester. And if you haven't met them, let me know, and I'll make sure you get a chance to talk to them, because they're doing good work and there's more work coming. But to First Genesis, good work and amen. Need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 101, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good. Introductory passes. Introductory number 102, authorizing the sale of the High Falls parking garage. Councilmember Gruber.
Thank you, Chairman. I will ask you, if you don't mind, to hold this legislation. The last time we were asked to sell parking garages, we also held, and you, myself, and President Melendez took a road trip to Syracuse, wanted to see what the parking developer was all about. I totally understand the idea and the concept of wanting to offload our parking garages. They are oftentimes an albatross around our neck. They cost a lot of money. They get pretty dilapidated pretty fast. I understand the reasons for it. This one in particular, I have some concerns about, specifically because, as we all know, we're hopefully about to invest about $100 million. Not we, but there will be about $100 million worth of investment in High Falls due to the park and some of the other conversations with the Red Wing Stadium, et cetera. And I just want to have some more clarity around the parking situation down there before we decide to sell a pretty important asset. So I would ask for you to hold it if possible. And I'd also ask both the deputy mayor and the commissioner if there's an opportunity to have a conversation sometime in the coming weeks, not just internally, but also with the state, to understand the parking situation down at the new park.
Chair Patterson, if I may.
Yes, please.
You have a few minutes just to
yes,
give
please.
some background here, and Councilmember Gruber, happy to follow up.
A little closer to the mic, please.
Yep. How's that?
Much better.
I'll use my outside voice and hope that that works. So just to give background, particularly for our newer council members, since the mayor took office, it's been one of our goals to strategically reduce our footprint as it relates to owning parking garages. So over the past 4 years, Council has approved 4 garages for sale: East End, Washington Square, Court Street, and Mortimer Street. Of those, 3 of those sales were completed. Mortimer Street was not completed due to financial difficulty on the part of the acquirer. We still own Sister Cities, South Avenue, Crossroads, Mortimer, and of course, High Falls. High Falls was put out for RFP in February of 2024 with no responses received. It was put out again for RFP in October of 2025 with 2 responses received, one of which is what's recommended in the legislation that you have before you. Last update that we provided to Council was back in September when I believe that you had legislation around revenue control equipment that was before you. I was either asked the question on the record or in writing, were we planning to sell any garages? And at that point, I think I responded that we did not have any sales in process. However, as we looked at getting ready and starting in October for the upcoming budget cycle, we stepped back and said, now would be a good time to revisit High Falls, just with what's going on in the area, to see what the interest level would be. As it relates to the park, with regard to both RFP processes, we have kept the state informed as to what we're doing and putting this out to bid in both cases. They have not responded to buy the garage, so I wanted to point that out. And in speaking with Laz, I think something that's important for this body to understand is that when it relates to a parking garage that's near a venue, they have a flexible staffing model that they scale up staffing and support during peak times, also around events that might be going on at the park, and they work to make sure that the parking experience is a positive one. So if they believe that a particular garage near a venue is going to fill up, they'll work with the owners of nearby garages to put in place a shuttle service to make sure that and put up clear signage and clear communication so that people aren't frustrated by the parking experience that they have. Happy to provide some specific venues where they're doing this and cities where they're doing this so that this body has that information as you deliberate. They've also made clear that they understand that the Rochester market is different than the parking market in Boston or Chicago or Los Angeles, and they don't want pricing to be a barrier in particular as it relates to people coming to High Falls and using that garage to park when they visit the beautiful state park that is to come. As far as Laz goes, we've been working with them for about a year now since the sales closed on the Court Street garage and Washington Square garage. And I think what I would say is that they've been really responsive. So we all have situations in our roles with people and entities that we deal with where it doesn't seem like much to return a phone call or an email, and yet it doesn't happen. They've been incredibly responsive. They've requested a quarterly check-in meeting so that they can let me know what's going on at the 2 garages that they own, and so also so they can use that time to raise concerns and identify ways in which the city could be supportive or things that we should be aware of at those locations. They've been responsive to customer concerns. So at Court Street, when the security company that was providing security proved to not be adequate, they made a change. And since that change was made in the early part of this year, the feedback that I've gotten from nearby users has been positive, that's been effective. When the need arose to adjust parking validation so that cost of parking was not a barrier or hardship for people attending the library, they were responsive to that and worked well with the library. And when the volunteer income tax preparation program, CASH, which I know you're all familiar with, raised parking as a potential barrier, again, they were very willing to work with that organization to put a solution in place that remove that barrier. I would also say they've been a great partner as far as dealing with our unhoused population. So from time to time, there are folks, as we know, who will seek shelter inside of a parking garage. The site manager was very proactive in reaching out and asking, how can we work with these folks to get them the supports that they need? And so that individual established a relationship with Sarah Fletcher, our Deputy Commissioner of Rec and Human Services, and that too has been a productive connection in that regard. As far as our rationale goes for selling this particular garage, and I think you could say this of any of the garages that we have sold, High Falls Garage is 30 years old. This city does a good job of maintaining its parking garages and being attentive to that, but it's 30 years old. And so as it ages, we expect the cost of maintaining that garage to increase. If we look to the east, the city of Syracuse, there was a parking garage there that was identified for emergency demolition. It was approximately 40 years old. It started to sink. As we know, demolition is a significant cost, and so an extreme example of something that can happen as these facilities age. We anticipate in the next 5 years $1.1 million in capital maintenance at this facility. I should note that that cost does not contemplate anything that might be found at that location's next iteration of our 3-year garage inspection process, which is due to occur in 2027. And certainly from a bird's eye view, the garage looks to be in good repair, but certainly structurally with closer examination that might yield a different answer. As far as the financial performance of the garage goes, it has essentially been a break-even operation, and we're happy to provide the historical performance in writing so that this body has that. But I think, as we look at known and anticipated potential costs, the ability to avoid those, revenue that we would generate from the sale, those are significant benefits to this transaction. I think also important to note, our parking team does a great job in managing our garages in a very traditional way to kind of meet the needs of the users of those during the week. I think as we look at what we hope High Falls State Park will be, I think that we would say that LAS has the ability and size and scale of an organization to flex up or down based on what we hope will be a full garage on many, many days of the year, especially as we look forward to weather that looks like what I'm looking at outside, but maybe a few degrees warmer. So I wanted to provide that overview in addition to what was in the transmittal. Happy to answer any questions that any of you have. Thanks for the time.
Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. I just wanted to point out, I was not at all an indictment of Laz. I appreciate all the things you said, but frankly, when the chairman, the president, and myself took a trip to Syracuse, one of the reasons we came back and voted yes is because they were a very reputable operator. I've heard a couple of things here and there about price points going up, some of the validation issues you mentioned at the library, but I have no doubt they've been resolved pretty quickly. For me, the question really is about what does public parking look like, or publicly owned parking look like in the park to come, and I look forward to a conversation. Hopefully you're still willing to hold it, Chairman. The one question I would ask for in writing would be how much prices increased from when LAS, because I recall in the previous sale, they were locked into the price that we had, and then it's sunset and they could increase the prices capped at a certain amount. Does something similar exist with the proposal you have in front of us?
Yeah, so it is through the end of this year, if I've got it right. There is a 2026 date in there. I would also tell you that what they've done at Court Street and Washington Square, I think the daily maximum, I don't believe has changed, but some of the bands within the various hour durations that you can have changed a bit. I think that one of the things that they've been pretty consistent with as we've talked with them both with the prior transaction and also in preparing for this potential transaction is that they understand the market that they operate in, and they look at what others charge for parking and realize that they need to be competitive relative to that as well. So whether it's outdoor surface lots or more relevantly adjacent parking garages within a mile, they're pretty attentive to that. But we can get you just a side-by-side of kind of where we were when the city last owned those garages and then where we are today at the two. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Monroe, then President.
Councilmember Gruber was talking about the current leases, or basically what Laz stepped into at the two garages that they do own now. Has that those original agreements that they had with existing partners using the garage, have those already expired, or were they going for about a year from the time that they took ownership in March of 2025?
Councilmember Monroe, I just want to make sure I understand your question.
Yeah,
are you asking about the pricing, or are you asking about any entities that might have already been parking at those garages? I just want to be clear, and I'm sorry, the issue is probably on my end.
Oh, no. So what I'm asking is, I know for if the High Falls parking garage was to move forward to a sale, that Laz would then be upholding for about a year the current terms of contracts that we have. Are they still in the midst of holding up those contracts for these other two garages, or has that expired?
I am 99.8% certain that that's expired, but we'll get you that clarification in writing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Also, I would request as well, if the chair were willing to hold this for a larger discussion, particularly because we do have new members on the council, and parking has been an issue that the city has struggled with, tried all sorts of different things in the intervening 20 years, past 20 years. And I think it's useful to have an idea, to know more about what the price points are, how they can be impacted between how we're going to be pricing garages compared to how they'll be pricing garages. We also don't have a long period of time now that the garages have been run by them for us to have a real sense of what the quality of their work is. I was surprised to hear that it's been pretty much a break-even situation. So it would be helpful to see what that, what you were saying about 1.1 billion was anticipated over the course of 5 years, and that there could be bigger pieces that would need to be worked on. But I would think that in the assessment process and them having building inspectors, that would also be something that they would have already discovered.
Yeah, so they will, if and when the sale is approved, they would go through and do that due diligence and finalize that aspect of it, their own inspection. You covered a lot of things in that question, so we'll make sure that we get to each and every one in writing. I do just want to differentiate that my comment about break even is from an operating standpoint, revenue and expense, and the 1.1 million would really have to do with 5 years of anticipated capital, and that's a cumulative number for a 5-year period based on at least what we know. Yep.
Councilmember Martin.
So I agree with Councilmember Monroe, and I think the discussion with the administration should include all of council, as this is an issue that impacts our constituents. So if council approved, when would ownership be formally transferred to Laz?
So we would then have to go through a closing process as we did with the other garages. They would have to complete their due diligence at the site. So we'd be looking at a period of months to follow. So likely at the earliest, mid to late summer.
Right. So then that would give a pretty short window to where LAS would have to essentially enact some of the conditions in here because, December 2026 is less than 6 months from the summer. So I wonder what the impact would be on cost, raising the prices, and it seems like a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, I think certainly appreciate that. I would also say that we've worked with them before. I think the last time was a painful but productive learning experience in terms of their due diligence process. So this body approved those sales in, I'm going to say, the summer of 2023. It took about 15 months from that point to close. There was just market conditions changed due to the economy and their rates of borrowing and things of that nature. So lessons learned will allow for a lot shorter runway, but certainly I hear the concerns around timing and short turnaround and the request for more information. So,
thank you. And if based on the proposal here, if LAS later decides to sell to a subsequent owner, does that owner have to abide by the conditions of sale, specifically around a permit agreement with WXXI, use of space by the city?
Let's get back to you in writing on that. The Corporation Counsel gets nervous when I practice law on the record, so we'll get back to you in writing.
Thank you. And I think some of these questions may be better answered in a larger meeting where we can
Absolutely.
dig deeper.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's it. I definitely would like to have more time, Chair, to think through the impact, especially with a park coming, and the overall impact on city resident parking. So I would also join the chorus in asking for this to be held.
Council President.
Yes, thank you. I'll preface my comments with I agree with holding the item for now. I also think LAS, from my experience from an operations standpoint, has been really good in terms of that part of it. But I have heard from many constituents and from some of the programs that you referenced that some of the challenges with the cost of parking, particularly around the central library, have been a little bit more challenging. And it sounds like some agreements maybe have been made since, but I know that at one point the cost nearly doubled for some of those programs that were operating there. So I would have that concern on the whole with any parking garage, not just this one. So I do want some more time to just understand the dynamics here. Thank you.
Yep. Just to address that, so absolutely right. So I think both instances that you described were the foot off of which the relationship got its start. And I think those concerns were pretty quickly brought to the surface as they should have been. And LAS was receptive to that and responsive to it. I think it's part of learning a particular market and understanding, what's important, what the price points are, what the potential barriers are for certain things that are essential to the operations of nearby organizations and being responsive to that. But absolutely correct on the description.
Councilmember Lupien and then Vice President.
Yeah, this is actually not related to any of the items. I just wanted to lift up that our live stream on YouTube is not, you can't hear the anything that we're saying. And it just occurred to me that if you use that to reconstitute our questions, just so you know that there's no sound.
we council member, just so you know, we do have staff keeps track of the questions both on the administration side and the council side.
Okay, good.
And the city clerk has other audio as well, so they're also recording the meeting.
Oh, the city clerk records it too. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
I will just add to that. I'm happy to provide the one pager that I put together to kind of guide my remarks, just so that that's available in our Q&A, so that we don't miss that piece of it as well. So thank you.
I would like to echo the remarks of my colleagues. I'm looking forward to holding it. I'd like to have a larger discussion as we look at how we're, building out our city development. Parking is definitely a vital part of making our city vibrant again, making sure parking is affordable or actually reasonable as we continue to look at that. So that's a larger discussion, absolutely. And thank you, Councilmember Gruber, for bringing this up.
All right, so we'll be holding the item. And with that said, we're going to move on to the next item, but also, staff, will you be working on getting us another meeting scheduled early May so we can get all this stuff fleshed out? Okay, thank you. Introduction number 103, sale of real estate, 125 Charlotte Street. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hey, Councilmember Lupien.
I know that we had opportunity to have our questions answered at the presentation. I would ask that we hold this so that we can get some of the answers and have more time to, with those answers, to understand more about the project.
So
we've asked for maps and timelines and, funding sources. So I just want to.
But the action before. So let's be clear on what we're doing here. So I'm going to ask the administration, what specifically are we authorizing to do with this legislation?
The sale of land.
Right?
Yes, authorizing the sale of the city-owned parcel at 125 Charlotte Street.
And we're we're asking to sell this parcel so that it can be developed for affordable housing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sorry, not just affordable housing, affordable ownership housing. Okay. Next question is this: based upon the testimony we received, can they move forward in their process without site control?
No, they require site control in order to proceed.
And is there any way that they can acquire site control without us providing the sale of the property?
No, they'll need to have the council authorization.
Okay, so all the questions about funding can't really be answered until they have site control. All of the issues regarding maps may well be relevant issues, but they don't address the issue of site control. Is that correct?
I think that's a fair statement. There's things that we can provide in advance as requested, but yeah, do not address the site control issue.
Okay, so the affordable homeownership project cannot move forward without site control. Site control can only be established through the sale of the property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please, President.
Just one note for me. I think the line of questioning that I went down around green space is one that I think is relevant to the council in terms of potentially what's happening with Interloop North and the lots that are adjacent to Main Street and Anderson Park. And I would support the request to hold the item to get those plans in the hands of council so that everyone could see how those two things dovetail with each other.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Martin?
Yeah, I would also support holding the item to get the information we requested. I'm specifically curious in what other potential areas for developments may be available close to 125 Charlotte Street to help evaluate the concerns of the public while supporting affordable housing.
Okay. I offer this to my colleagues. There are a lot of other locations in close proximity to this place that are available for development, specifically and particularly in the Northeast District. There are not a lot of other places that are available for development, specifically and particularly in the East District. This project, and I am a fan of affordable housing. I am a fan of owner-occupied housing. My whole time on council, those are things I've been advocating for. But at the same time, in my time on council, there has been a pronounced and inexplicable opposition to anything with the word affordable in it followed by housing, whether it be affordable housing for senior citizens in Cobb's Hill, whether it be affordable housing on East Main Street, whether it be affordable housing here, affordable housing there, affordable housing. It is though we always have to have a fight and a struggle for affordable housing. And yet at the same time, I think council, and I get that, you know, it's a nice little grassy area. You can go outside, you can throw the frisbee, and you can play with the dog, and that's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, the opportunity to realize generational wealth with this particular location is amazing. For the folks who would have the opportunity to get basically I'm going to call it a double because in my mind it's always going to be a double. The folks who would have the opportunity to purchase those homes, in many instances what happens when you go to buy a double is a lot of banks will look at, hey, what revenue can you generate from that second unit? So when you're looking at affordability, those units become that much more affordable for the folks going in. So it's not necessarily you're going to be rent burdened for the whole thing because the owner isn't going to pay the full cost of the property. The owner's going to pay that portion of the cost of the property minus the rent payment that they're going to receive. This location is particularly choice for the selection of owner-occupied housing. You know, it is not a challenged neighborhood by any stretch of the imagination. And ladies and gentlemen, I humbly submit to folks that when you look at Rochester and you look at affordable housing, one of the things that we don't do is build affordable housing in, I would characterize it as more highly selective and highly desirable neighborhoods. We seem to go out of our way to not do that. This is one of the few proposals that I've seen in my time on council that is expressly particularly focused at a 60% AMI on making sure that folks get an ownership opportunity in what is, we can all agree, a great neighborhood right now. It's not just it's not improving, it's already great. So I get the interest and the concern for the grassy space that is not a park. But at the same time, I am hoping that council members will understand that this is a unique and particular opportunity. So when you are looking at what else is available, my question is, what else is available in the East District in close proximity to this space? And the answer is, yeah, no, not really nothing.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, so I just offer that. I will hold the item, but colleagues, time is not our friend on this. And the choice is not whether it will remain, you know, whether the community is negatively impacted by this grassy space being sold to be owner-occupied affordable housing. Until they can execute and actually get to build, it's a grassy, well, I'll ask the administration. Even if we authorize the sale of real estate, does that mean that the developer immediately takes control of the space and, you know, they have an obligation to put up a fence, and now if anybody slips and falls, they have to be indemnified? Yeah, I know, we'll get that in writing. I can see Corporation Counsel smiling right now. So we'll wait and get that in writing. So we'll hold the item, but, you know, colleagues, look.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I appreciate you holding the item. I want to express that I am in full support of the project.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that there's some conversation around the adjacent sites in terms of the alternative green spaces that are being planned for. That's kind of where I am. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
I have some additional comments.
Councilmember Lupien, please.
So I hear you, Mike. For me, this is not about keeping affordable housing out of the East District. And I think you know me well enough to know that that's not the thing. Is this affordable? That's the question I want to answer. That's why I want it held, because I can't afford these houses as it stands.
And are you sure?
I make $50,000 a year. How much do you make?
Yeah,
I can't afford that house.
So I make just a little bit more than you, but that's because I Uber.
Cool.
So,
I've got two jobs too.
Okay, yeah.
My point is,
but it's still cheaper than rent.
When you're talking about affordable housing,
mm-hmm.
the kinds of people that you're bringing into imagination are not the same, right? I want to make sure that this project is affordable for the people that live in your district.
Oh.
Okay, I'm not done.
Go ahead.
I'm not done.
What? Hang on.
I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so that is why I want the item held. And I understand when you're looking at affordable housing versus green space, it makes it seem like a NIMBY issue. I also want to highlight that this is about how many people does this property serve. With the proposal, it would serve 20 people. 9 of the ADUs, as far as I know, I didn't ask this question, are not guaranteed to be affordable. So we are talking about 11 homeowners versus an entire community who really values this space. So I just want to make it clear that this is not about NIMBY affordable housing in their backyards. I would submit that there are quite a few affordable housing projects built in the same exact area when the East Inner Loop was filled. So this, for me, is about how many people does this serve? Is this going to serve our residents that we're talking about in terms of, fine, 60% of AMI, but as it stands, I don't think that that is going to actually be affordable. And I know that banks will not allow you to count rental income that you do not have. And so that would be another stipulation that they would have to figure out. So that's why I'm asking to hold it.
Well, council member, I've worked with NACA over the years. I'm actually going to go look at one of their developments in Selma, Alabama next month that's doing modular housing, and NACA does look at the rent. The other part of that is this. We have this program called Buy the Block, and if memory serves me correctly, aren't we selling around $175 for Buy the Block? No.
A bit under that, but yeah.
Look, how much?
Up between 140 to 160.
Okay, so 25. So 25,000.
I thought we sold houses for 100.
No.
Am I wrong?
I'd ask Carol Wheeler.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have.
No. Buy the Block. What our cell number?
The small houses were under $100,000 in phase 1, but in phase 2, they are more expensive.
Okay. And those are single-family homes?
These are single-family homes, and with the program that is being applied to by the Hinge neighborhood, it is primarily for under 60% of the median income. So anyone who is purchasing through that program, they have to be under a certain income, and these units have to be affordable to them.
So I'm not making these people up, council member. We're selling to the same people that we sell in our Buy the Block program, phase 1 and phase 2, that we literally have to have a lottery for. Okay, council member Gruber.
Yeah, I'm not going to say all the things that I want to say because it's not time to vote if we're holding it. I find it interesting that there's only comments about not selling property in the East District, but for the First Genesis, where we're selling 10 parcels, no, there's no questions about it. It's just less. And actually, for that one, we're also providing money and loans. This one, we're just being asked to sell property, but I'll leave that alone for the time being and just make sure that the question I keep hearing people ask about is what other parcels are available for development. That was the conversation, Chairman, that you and I heard nonstop during Cobbs Hill Village. I actually don't know how you answer that question because this particular parcel was built with utilities in mind for density. So I don't actually know. I guess I would ask the administration, how do you plan to answer that question? How could you possibly answer? You can show us where other parcels are where they can fit the same amount of stuff, but you can't talk about all the money that's already gone into the creation of the utilities that would allow for this number of people to live there. So I guess it is a question for you, interim commissioner. How would you even propose to answer that question?
I would look to get with the team and figure out the best approach, but I would like to think that we would look at comparably sized or larger parcels in the vicinity that Councilmember Martin had requested, and just identify those on paper. Wouldn't take into account utilities or any other infrastructure in place.
Would you please, if you're going to provide that back to us in writing, please identify if the utilities that are there now and whatever parcels you identify are suitable to be able to have this number of properties there?
If we can, if we have that information and can say that confidently, then we'll certainly provide that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
So I think there's an interest for most of us, probably all of us here on council, to ensure that the housing that's built starts to address some of the harm of the inner loop, specifically targeting historically marginalized and excluded communities. I think with that in mind, and with the answers I received from the administration, we learned that there are very specific limitations on how we can actually sell those houses. For example, there can't be a component that says you have to come from a historically marginalized or excluded community. There's not a racial analysis. What we can do is the 60% AMI, right? Which is helpful for some, but when we're looking at the folks who have been harmed by racism, capitalism, poverty, a lot of them they still can't afford homes, right? Let's even start there, let alone be at that 60% AMI. There are folks literally sitting here on this body that are not even at that 60% AMI. So I think the goal is beautiful. I love the idea and the proposal, but I just don't think this specific project is able to address the harm that it aims to. And I'm basing that off of the information I have. If there are other answers that can be provided to us that addresses specifically with methodology, how does this materially essentially provide some form of reparations for the communities that were displaced with the inner loop? Once that's answered, I'm open to going back to the drawing board, but for right now, I'm just not seeing it. So I'm very interested in seeing what other options are available. Again, I support the development, but right now, I'm not fully bought in on it happening right there at 125 Charlotte. I'd be interested in seeing what other options are available to make sure the development does happen, but not necessarily at the location as proposed.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
If we are going to hold this, I would hope that there would be some amount of time set to that so that it's just not held up in perpetuity, because that would do more damage than good. But also when we're talking about righting the wrongs of history, even when we're looking at programs like the First Genesis Project, which I think is an amazing project, that is not necessarily rewriting the wrongs of history, because we're building in communities that are still lower income communities, in places where people will not be able to gain the equity to get themselves out of poverty. So I think we have to take all of that into consideration with a project like this, but also to your comment, Councilmember Lupien, in terms of the size. There are a lot of places in our cities that we're just kind of landlocked. So I don't know that we have a lot of places where we're going to get more than 11 units of home ownership. And although there are a number of, I think a couple of hundred affordable housing units in that area, I don't know how many of them are actual home ownership. So doing affordability is one thing. Doing home ownership to help families build equity is a whole other thing. And if this body does decide to hold, again, we just can't let this just go on forever.
Council President.
Yeah, just quickly, my opinion and my suggestion to us all is that we're not holding this indefinitely, that we will vote on this month, but we will get the information that we've all requested before that vote.
Councilmember Monroe.
I would hope that NBD would be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that there's any kind of funding source from either us through the federal government with CDBG dollars or through the state that allow anything beyond the AMI being the cutoff point to say that this is, for lower income and that we do not have the ability to market it out based on ethnicity or race.
That's correct. We're not able to limit by race or by residency, but we can, and in fact, the funding sources require that we limit the pool of buyers to those living at 60% AMI, roughly.
And I would piggyback on some of my colleagues' comments, just with the difference between questions for First Genesis and questions for this item. One of the things that excites me about this project is not just that it is the home ownership piece, but this addition of accessible dwelling units and the different kind of financing model that Hinge Neighborhoods is going to be employing for this. I'm hoping that it can be a pilot for other projects going forward. It's very progressive in that way, and personally I'm very excited about the project, and also looking forward to seeing how much space that World of Inquiry will be able to have, which is within walking distance as well of this property. Thank you.
Councilmember Lupian.
Yeah, Councilmember Monroe, I echo that this is a really exciting project, and that I hope that should we build it, that it be a model that we can replicate throughout the city. Addressing why this is different than First Genesis, it feels a little disingenuous to suggest that it's because it's in the East District. It is because we received a petition with over 800 signatures asking us to keep the space green. That is why we are having this conversation.
Council Vice President.
I'd like to address some of the comments as you guys compare it to First Genesis. There's one thing that's blaring to me. This project is something that's trying to develop affordable housing in a neighborhood where it typically doesn't get affordable housing in. And over the years, the property values have increased. This gives folks an opportunity to move into a neighborhood, have some equity, and be able to have a home where the property values will most likely increase. That will build wealth over time for their families and have a legacy for their families in the future. Where we typically build affordable housing in neighborhoods that are marginal. And often we hope that the property values will increase. Sometimes they don't. In fact, there has been times where we build in neighborhoods where property values are flat. And even though we've invested millions of dollars and include, with all kinds of money from the federal government, even the state, it still remains so. So this project is really an opportunity for us to do something different. And I think that people are fearful of that. And I get that. But we have to think about how we're going to get our districts to move in that direction where we are building wealth for our residents. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have flat neighborhoods or neighborhoods that are not generating appreciation. So I get where you guys are talking about that, but that's the difference between the First Genesis and this. This is a little different. I think we need to do all of these projects, not just this or that. We need to do all of these to help build up our neighborhoods. So just consider that.
So, colleagues, I've heard your calls to hold this item, but I humbly submit to you that it takes 7 votes in the affirmative to pass this item once we get past committee. I think that's going to be a bit of a reach. I think that's going to be some work. But I think our duty in this committee is to move this, is to put this item to a vote now and let this developer know, yay or nay, are we serious? And to be very focused and direct in yes or no. So if we're going to say no, let our no be no. If we're going to say yes, let our yes be yes.
We don't know that yet.
Excuse me, Councilmember. Thank you. I'll come back to you. So with that being said, even though I've heard calls to hold this item, colleagues, I would like to vote on this item now. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we vote on this item now. Today's a Tuesday. 2 weeks from now is our council meeting. We will have all of the answers by then, or we won't. At that time, we can make a decision to either A, vote on the item, or to return the item to committee. But I think to Councilmember Leslie Smith's point, we need to move this forward. We need to keep moving. We can't let this get lost in the sauce. And time is of the essence, and time is money. And they can't move forward until we move. There is room for debate there, and we should have continuing, ongoing debate. It will be a strenuous debate. But today, my ask is that we vote on the item before us. And if it passes, it passes. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And then they'll know, and we'll know too. And that is the measure of our character and the measure of our duty. Councilmember Lupien, Councilmember Gruber.
So what I don't want to do is be forced to vote on something when I don't have all of the information. And there is information that I need to make my mind up. And it is not made up. And you are right. We don't have the votes right now. If right now the vote was today. I don't want to make it so that they can never bring this back. I like this project. I don't want to vote it no. So give me the opportunity to get the information I need.
Councilmember, there are only 5 members of this committee. And if at this point in time you don't feel comfortable saying yay, then say nay. And then we can go forward with the conversation. Councilmember Gruber, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure from Corporation Council, I understand we need to have 7 votes in the full council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just a simple majority in the committee meeting?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. None? Okay. Anybody else have anything else they want to say?
I'd like to get to the next committee soon because
Okay.
Soon,
well, yeah, heck, sometimes the job is you got to talk in public. That's the job. All right. Well, I'm going to go for it. Call for a motion in a second.
Move it.
Need a second. Well, if we don't have a second, then the item is held. All right. Introductory number 104. Sale of real estate. School number 29. Authorizing the sale of school number 29. Questions, comments, or concerns? Oh, wait a minute. So before we go any further with this one, we have a disclosure of interest for Councilmember Leslie Smith. She must recuse from the deliberation and vote. Councilmember, would you like to state on the record your reason for the recusal?
Sure. Upon the recommendation of council, I should recuse myself because I'm a former trustee of this charter school. I am allowed to vote, but I decided to go ahead and do that as I do not want to unfairly support this project.
Fair enough. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Lupien?
Yes, I just wanted to explain my vote. I am a supporter of public schools, and selling schools to charter schools is something that I ideologically don't support. However, I want to understand the suitability of School 29 for housing, because that's, in my mind, a better use of these buildings. So would that be something that you could answer?
Well, so this recommendation is the result of a request for proposals process. There was a proposal that was submitted for housing, and that was ultimately not recommended for this project. So I can't speak to the suitability of the building. I'm not a developer, but there was one developer who felt that they could make that happen.
And I know you guys are kind of funny about letting us see RFPs, but is that something that we could see, that housing RSP?
We'll confer with MBD and let you know the appropriate path.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Martin?
Yes, in the packet, I didn't see anything about the RFP from August. Can you please send that over, what the results were, who applied?
Yeah, we don't typically, and defer to Corporation Counsel, but I don't believe we typically provide summaries of development RFPs. We do for professional services.
Yeah, that's kind of a variation on the theme of Councilmember Lupien's question. So we'll confer with NBD and we'll let council know what the approach is going to be.
Okay, so I think to clarify my request, I would like to see who applied, similar to what you would do for a professional service. If it has to be confidential for any reason, please explain why, but that would also be fine. But I'd like to dig more into it. Right now, I'm in alignments with Councilmember Lupien. I do think this may be better suited for housing, so I'm not on this committee, but yeah, I'm not in support of this project at this time.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Vice President, and then Councilmember Gruber.
Yes, I just have a question. I do know that some of the school modernization projects they've been looking at possibly holding those items because of the skyrocketing cost of materials. And what happens if this project is delayed because of materials and they're not able to expand as planned?
You're asking after the sale goes through and they
Yeah.
open? We can follow up with the proposer and get a response in writing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a comment. I believe in public schools too, and charter schools are public schools. I believe that black and brown families deserve choice. Charter schools provide that choice. Charter schools, look, are all charter schools good? No, they are not good. And we've had a slew of charter schools in Rochester that have been horrible, and they've closed. Just as we've had a slew of public schools through the Rochester School District who have been horrible and who have closed. But families deserve choice. And I do not believe that black and brown families are chattel property that to be held in ownership by any school district in any community, including Rochester. So, if this organization can show time in and time out that they can successfully educate our children, I am in favor of charter schools. Heck, there might even be a member of this body who may well be on a board of an extremely successful charter school network in the city of Rochester, and we have many of them that successfully educate our children. And that is not, and just because someone can successfully educate our children does not mean that that is a slight to the Rochester City School District in any way, shape, or form, which is an entity that is a part of the city of Rochester. So I will be in favor of this item because, hey, a building built for a purpose, I believe, should be used for that purpose. And if someone is willing to pay us to make use of something that another organization could not find a viable use for, so they gave it back to us, I say give them a chance. Councilmember Leslie Smith.
I just want to support those comments, Chair Patterson.
You're recused.
I can't
Can she
be a part of discussion.
I'm just asking. It says deliberation in the vote, right?
Yeah, it's still. So full recusal means no deliberation either, because you're not supposed to influence. But yeah.
But your recusal was your choice. And I want to let you in, but I want you to get in no trouble. You know what I'm saying? It's like, Councilmember, we'll just come down the line. We'll start with Councilmember.
Thanks. I appreciate your comments, Chair Patterson. I would just say that we have been trying to convince the Rochester City School District to right size for many years, and one of the things that I have said several times in budget hearings to them and in different places is if the thing that's preventing them from right sizing, because we know they have a whole lot of buildings that they're not using in full, the thing that's preventing them from right sizing is a fear of those buildings being sold to charter schools. I've said that we should talk to them about that and make sure that we are, because God knows schools do become housing very well. So I really would be curious, and I understand Corporation Counsel and Deputy Mayor that there is some precedent here about not wanting to share too much about the procurement process, but given what this conversation has been, I think it would be really useful to understand at least why the one housing development that Commissioner Frisch mentioned was not viewed as applicable. I think that would be a useful conversation for us to have between now and April 21st. The other thing I just want to ask is, does Brass have their charter?
This isn't Brass.
This is an existing.
It's an
existing school.
It's an existing school but they don't have a charter they're not currently operating in the city of Rochester, correct?
They are, right. They're operating on, I believe, Humboldt Street.
It's Rockside.
Rockside.
Yeah, it's Rockside.
What's the school called, Mike?
Rockside. It's in the Transmitter. They're up and they're running. They've been here for a while. They
Okay.
used to be part of Buffalo.
Got it. It's the it's the one that it opened a few years ago. Okay, they're just looking to move to a different location. Is that correct?
They're expanding out.
They're expanding, yeah.
So they're going to keep their existing location, and this is to add a high school there.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thanks.
We were coming down the line, I believe. So, do we have anybody else down the line? Go ahead.
Yeah, just want to. It might seem like a strange position, but I also agree that families have choice and should have choice. And when kids leave the district and go to charter schools, it takes funding away. So I just wanted to put that on the record that I hold both at the same time.
Councilman President?
I'm ready to vote.
Councilmember Martin?
So in the previous vote, we needed 7 votes for it to pass. For this vote at the large council meeting, do we also need 7?
Yes. All sale of real estate requires 3/4 majority.
Thank you.
Well, council member, I will put the value of a child receiving a successful education at a location that the parent chooses over the maintenance of an organization that parent feels is not providing what they need. That's just me. Wait. Hey,
this is about housing.
Wait. I just gotta see council member over here has got a question. Okay.
This vote for me is about whether this can be used for housing. I understand that if it sits empty, it serves no purpose. But I wonder, we need housing, as you stated, desperately. And so I want to understand how this building could be used for housing.
And we also need successful schools for our children. The two are not mutually exclusive, and they are not in opposition to each other. Anybody else? Nothing else? All right. Motion in a second.
Move it.
Moved and seconded? Okay. And now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 104, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
No.
opposed, please say nay.
No.
Roll call.
Councilmember Patterson. Yes. Councilmember Leslie Smith. Oh,
She got to
she
recuse.
abstained. Right. Councilmember Lupien.
No.
Vice President Harris.
Yes.
President Melendez.
Yes.
All right. Motion passed. Introductory number 105. Zoning Board of Appeals. Introductory number 105. 105. Approving appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Questions, comments, or concerns? President?
We didn't let Dana Miller really retire yet. I just noticed that.
We gave him a little bit of time away, but,
What,
but
a
not
week?
much.
2 weeks? All right.
Okay. Motion. Councilmember Monroe?
I just have 2 requests. One is for Ms. Jeffries' address, as well as the who made the nomination. Thank you. Who made the nomination?
All right. Need a motion in a second?
Move it.
Move it. Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 105, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 106, amending the municipal code, section 90-16, with respect to lead paint inspection requirements. Just a technical amendment, adding some things that weren't included in the last time we did this. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Moved and
Second.
seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 106, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. With that, we stand adjourned, and I ask the clerk to call the roll for the RUA Resolution Review Committee.
Agent Patterson.
Here.
Agent Leslie Smith.
Here.
Agent Lupien.
Here.
Agent Harris.
Here.
Agent Melendez.
Here.
All right. Introductory number URA3, resolution approving the Rochester Urban Renewal Agency's budget, performance measures, and report. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number URA3, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. With that being done, this committee stands adjourned.
At this time, while folks move around, I will call the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
And
Chair,
I have
Chair Gruber,
Yeah.
if I may. I may have to leave a little early. I apologize, but I'm going to stay as long as I can.
Well, I organized about a 45-minute presentation for us.
All right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
No, we should be done with the business in about 5 minutes, unless folks have a lot of questions about these. Introductory number 107, authorizing an agreement relating to SUNY College of Brockport social work field internships. Vice President Harris.
I'm really excited about this. I think this is a great opportunity for our city. I've done work with the SUNY Brockport social work department as an internship when I was the 19th Ward Community Association president, and they do fabulous work, so I support this.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes, echoing the Vice President's comments, I have a procedural question. What is the reason for this coming before council versus other internships that other departments may have?
It is a agreement, kind of like a contract between SUNY Brockport, and we do this with all colleges, whether there's one intern or several interns. The reason we bring it to City Council is there's no money attached to it, but because it's more than 1 year, we want to make you all aware of what we would like to do.
Thank you, that's helpful. And can you send over other agreements we have with other universities? Thank you.
Yes.
This is great, thank you.
Councilmember Lupien.
I just want to echo those comments. This is exciting.
I'll take a motion, please.
Move it.
So move.
Second.
Okay, sorry. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. I have a question. Can you tell me how many of the interns have been offered jobs with the city of Rochester and how many currently work here?
Right now, I will check on that, but we do not have any that work for the city at this point.
Okay, and if you can also, because it says that there were 12, if we can find out if any of them have been offered a job or currently work here, that will be great for clarification. And then I have another question. I wanted to know if any of them have been placed with either the PIC team or the violence prevention teams.
Every year, the OVP takes at least, or the PIC team takes 2 to 3, so they take a majority of the interns.
Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Can council members also request social work interns for constituent services?
If they meet the requirements in order for the student to graduate, yes.
Cool, thank you.
Now I'll take a motion, please.
Move it.
So moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 108, authorizing an agreement related to enterprise electronic payment processing services. I would refer folks to the purple piece of paper that does compare costs across other cities, and open it up to any questions, comments, or concerns. Vice President Harris.
Do you guys, for these services, do you guys take cash or is it just these credit card processing?
We do take electronic checks. For this particular service, we take electronic checks as well.
But no cash?
No cash.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Now I'll take a motion.
Move it.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 109, a local improvement ordinance establishing the operating and maintenance costs of neighborhood commercial and residential parking areas for 26-27. A public hearing is to be held on Thursday, April 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we know what changed on Monroe and Oxford? That I know that they said that there was an increase in like trash collection or something along those lines. Is there more restaurants or like what took place that caused that increase? I'm just curious. More businesses, new restaurants.
I'm not sure, but we actually can research that and get you that in writing.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Lupien.
Yes, this is a question about parking in general. There's a parking lot in the Wadsworth Square neighborhood, and my question is, do we own that as a parking lot? Because I thought we did. So my question is around that, specifically because it was not plowed this winter. So if we can get information on that.
Okay, we can get you some information on that.
Thank you.
If no further questions, I'll take a motion.
Move it.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 110, authorizing the receipt and use of funds related to library technology upgrades. There's one disclosure for this item from myself, as I'm the council liaison of the Rochester Public Library Board, but I'm only required to disclose. I may participate in the discussion and the vote. Vice President Harris.
Yes, I'm excited about this grant. I just got a question. Will we have to match this grant amount?
No, we will not.
Okay. So will this be enough to cover what we're trying to achieve with the grant? Or
Yes, this
Okay.
should be, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Monroe.
What prompts the monitoring of the video?
Usually we don't look at the video very often unless there is some kind of an incident that is reported, although there are times when there are blind spots in different areas of the libraries, and they will, in some of the branches, they will look at it just to get an extra set of eyes because, you know, shelving and so on, there's little blind spots, but most of the time it's because there's been an incident reported.
Thank you.
If no further questions, I will just publicly say thank you to Senator Cooney for providing these funds to the library and ask for a motion in a second.
Move it.
So moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And finally, instruction number 111, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement relating to the Lilac Festival. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Comment.
President Melendez.
Yes, I want to thank the administration for navigating one of the constituent issues we had around service dogs at the Lilac Festival, and we got a positive answer for that, so we really appreciate the work that you did to get us an answer.
And let's hope we have a good start to festival season. If no further questions, I will take a motion, please.
Move it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This concludes the work of the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee. We are adjourned.